Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and asked yourself, why do I doubt myself so much? Or maybe you have held back from saying what you really think because a tiny voice inside whispered, what if you're wrong? If this feels familiar, you are not alone. There are millions of people in this world whose minds feel like battlefields, where self-doubt and confidence are constantly at war. Today, we are going to explore the psychology of people who always doubt themselves and reveal the truth about confidence in the simplest, clearest way possible. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. Most people might smile, say hello, or introduce themselves without much thought. But for someone who always doubts themselves, that same room can feel like a storm. Their heart beats faster, their thoughts spin into questions like, will they like me? Do I look awkward? Or what if I say something stupid? These thoughts are not just random, they come from deeper psychological patterns rooted in how the mind works. And understanding them can help anyone begin to break free. First, let's understand what self-doubt really is. Self-doubt is not merely a lack of confidence. It is a pattern of thinking, a habit the brain falls into again and again. The brain is hardwired to keep you safe. A long time ago, survival meant avoiding danger. Today, danger might not be a lion chasing you. But the brain still reacts strongly to anything that feels threatening, even social situations or the possibility of failure. So when a person says, I'm not good enough, their brain hears a danger, avoid it, and responds with fear, worry, and hesitation. But why do some people fall into this thinking more than others? One major reason is something called self-criticism. People who always doubt themselves often have a very harsh inner voice. This inner voice judges every mistake, every slip, and every moment of uncertainty. It doesn't say you're learning, it says you should have done better. Over time, a person begins to believe this voice is the truth about who they are. And when you believe that, confidence disappears. This inner critic often grows from early experiences. For some people, childhood memories include parents or teachers who pressured them to be perfect. For others, it might come from comparisons with siblings, classmates, or friends. When a child is praised only for success and criticized for failure, they learn to fear being not good enough. This fear doesn't just disappear in adulthood, it becomes a lasting emotional pattern. Another root of self-doubt is perfectionism. Perfectionists set extremely high standards for themselves. They believe that anything less than perfect is unacceptable. On the surface, this might seem like a good thing. After all, trying to be your best sounds healthy. But the problem is that perfectionists don't just aim high, they fear falling short. For a perfectionist, making a mistake feels like losing, not learning. So they second-guess, hesitate, and avoid challenges where the outcome is uncertain. Over time, this becomes self-doubt. Let's pause here and think about a simple question: where does confidence come from? Most people assume confident people are born that way. But psychology tells us something different. Confidence isn't a fixed trait, it is a skill. It is not something you either have or don't have. It is something you build through experience, feedback, and practice. People who doubt themselves often have what psychologists call a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset means believing your abilities are set in stone, that you are either good at something or you're not. People with a fixed mindset fear failure because failure, in their mind, means they are not good enough. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset believe that abilities and confidence can grow over time. They see failure not as a judgment, but as a lesson. For example, imagine two people giving a speech. One person messes up a few lines and thinks, I'm terrible at public speaking. The other person thinks, that was good practice, next time I will be better. The difference is not talent, it's mindset. Another psychological reason for chronic self-doubt is fear of judgment. People who doubt themselves often assume that others are constantly watching, evaluating, or criticizing them. They focus on what others might think rather than what they want to say or do. This fear creates an imaginary audience, one that is harsher and more judgmental than reality. In reality, most people are focused on themselves. But the mind of someone who doubts themselves exaggerates potential judgment and shrinks confidence. Let's also talk about negative self-talk. This is the constant internal dialogue that reinforces doubt. It sounds like, I'm not ready, I'll mess up, I don't deserve this. Every time you repeat these phrases, your brain accepts them as truth. The language you use inside your mind is powerful. It shapes your beliefs about yourself. Now here comes the important part, the truth about confidence. Confidence does not come from never feeling doubt. Confidence comes from acting despite doubt. You can still feel scared, unsure, or insecure, and still choose to take action. That is what real confidence looks like. Instead of waiting to feel confident before doing something, psychologically strong people build confidence through action. They take small steps, they try, they fail, they learn, and they try again. Every step forward, no matter how small, reinforces the belief, I can handle this. So how does someone move from doubt toward confidence? The first step is awareness. Recognize when your mind is slipping into self-doubt. Notice those negative thoughts without judgment. Awareness weakens the power of the inner critic. The next step is to challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought based on evidence or fear? If you catch yourself thinking I'll fail, ask, is there proof? Or am I assuming the worst? This simple questioning moves you out of emotional thinking and into logical thinking. Another powerful shift is to reframe mistakes. Mistakes are not proof of inadequacy, they are proof of effort. Every mistake is feedback, not failure. Learning to view mistakes as part of the growth process changes how you think about challenges. Confidence also grows through small wins. When you succeed at something, even something small, your brain records it as evidence that you are capable. Another psychological truth about confidence is that it is social. Supportive people matter. When someone encourages you, believes in you, and reflects your strengths back to you, your mind begins to trust that reflection. Positive feedback from others can help quiet the inner critic, but remember, external validation is not enough. The strongest confidence comes when you learn to be your own supporter. Yet self-doubt won't disappear overnight. It is a habit, and habits take time to change. Some days will feel harder than others. But every time you choose action over avoidance, you weaken self-doubt and strengthen confidence, like training a muscle. At the end of the day, people who always doubt themselves are not less capable. They are people whose minds have learned to protect them, but in the process have held them back. The psychology of self-doubt is rooted in fear, habit, and past experiences. The truth about confidence is that it grows through action, learning, and mindset. So the next time that little voice whispers you can't, don't believe it. Remember this, confidence is not the absence of doubt, it is the courage to act despite it. You have the ability to challenge fear, to change your thinking, and to grow a confidence that feels real, not fake. Your journey begins with one small step, and that step, right there, is courage.